Okay. All right, we're good. We're up and running. So we're going to talk about the perfect tense. Now, the sententia, or the thing that I had you guys translate the other day in class, well, yesterday, had all examples of the perfect tense. All right, when we learned verbs, what did I say was crucial? What should you learn about them? Matthew? The principal parts. In a typical verb, how many principal parts would you normally see? 4. Good. Okay. So for this, let's kind of just talk a general broad overview so you can kind of get an idea of where this fits in the grand scheme of things. All right, so we've got how many verb systems? Have we talked about verb systems before? Okay, so there's 2 verb systems. Does anyone remember what they're called? Asher?
One is called past.
You were right the first time. Just perfect. So there's the perfect verb system and the present. Yeah. Okay, so let's just, there isn't one. It's just present or perfect. And the reason why, you'll see why. Okay, so in the present system, we've got the present, relax, the present tense, the imperfect tense, and the future tense. Okay, and in the perfect system, we've got the perfect tense, the pluperfect tense, and the future perfect. Okay? Yes? All right. Now, the reason why they make the distinction between 2 separate verb systems is because these separate verb systems require use of different principal parts. Okay, I'll say that one more time. The reason why they separate these out into 2 separate verb systems is because each system uses a specific but different principal part. Okay, so the present and the imperfect tense, which we've gone over, which principal part would you need to conjugate correctly? The second, yeah. Okay, so let's actually just write that. Okay, so if I write PP, you guys know what that means? Okay, uses the second PP to get what we call the present stem. Okay, whereas in the perfect system, you're going to use the third principal part to get the perfect stem. Principal part. Okay, so far so good? May I scroll? There's always one. Okay. All right, now in terms of endings, let's kind of just go over what we know already, and then we'll push forward. Okay, so I don't think we've gone over the future tense, have we? The future, it's a Bobus bit. No? Okay, yeah, I didn't think we did. So I think as of right now, the ones we technically know are the present and the imperfect. Okay, and then after today, we'll know the perfect, so that'll be 50% of the verbs. No, the perfect is one of the easier ones, to be honest with you. I'm about to teach it, buddy. That would be like you going to a horseback riding lesson and you're sitting on the horse and she's about to explain to you how to horseback ride and you go, how does this go again? Patience. All right. So in terms of the present tense, let's just deal with what we know. What are the endings? Mm-hmm. How about the imperfect? Yep. Okay. Now the perfect tense is easy, although it might not seem so at first. Okay, the endings are as follows. E, isti, it, imus, istis, and erunt. Now, in terms of macrons, if you are curious as to where they go, there's one over this first person singular. There's one over the second person singular, and then there's only one over the E in third person plural. Yes. Aramarasarat is for those are the pluperfect endings. Well, it's a little confusing because it is. So in the imperfect tense, the verb to be, the form itself is aramarasarat. Aramarasarat is erant. But in terms of endings, those are pluperfect endings. So it's a little confusing, but yeah. Okay. Beats me, I don't know. All right, we have this down? Okay. No, I mean, you just chant them and sound like you're crazy. That's always more fun. Okay. All right, now, in terms of, right, when we talk about tense, we're talking about time. Okay, tense is time. All right, now we have the present and we've got the future. The rest of them are all examples of different types of past tenses, right? Bill and Sam? Yes? It's like, this must be what mothers feel like. Yes, mom. Stop goofing around. Okay. Now here's the difference, right? Whoops. This is an adjective. Okay, what do we think it means? What is perfectus? What is perfect? Well, what is perfection? What does that sound like? And what is perfect? What does that mean? Complete. Okay, so perfectus auum, all it means is complete. Right? If something is perfect, it is fully 100% complete. Okay, now in English, if you think of it this way, right? When you add an im in beginning of something, what does it do to that word? It negates it. Okay, so perfect is complete. Oh my goodness. Imperfect is not complete. Okay, that's just another way of saying continuous. All right, so when we're dealing with the two tenses here, the imperfect is simply just continuous action, whereas the perfect tense is complete action. It's done. It's like the simple past in English. Well, I won't write that. Okay, so that's like the easy way to help you remember. All right, let me... Yes, Matthew. Is the present what? Don't think of it that way. Think of the imperfect as its own tense. Because why is it?
categorized as imperfect?
No, don't think of it as a category. Just think of it as its own thing.
Sorry. Why is imperfect in the present system?
Because in the present system, you need the second principal part to form all of those verbs. So that's kind of just how they did it. Or they could have called it any system. They could have called it something else.
But couldn't imperfect be perfect and present at the start? It could be past tense and present tense.
No, because, well, look, it's not really about the time when things happen, right? In the perfect system, all of these, right, the perfect, pluperfect, and the future perfect are all different types of past tenses. Okay, but in the present system, the present, the imperfect, and the future, we've got a present tense, we've got a type of past tense, and the future tense, all in one system, right? So really, all the distinction is when you form the words, what principal part are you getting the stem from? It has nothing to do with the time when the verbs are happening, if that makes sense. Okay, if we were to conjugate out one verb in like all of the tenses, you would see like how clear it is. We're gonna do we'll do it in with a verb that we know in just the tenses that we know, so you can kind of see how that works. But okay, yeah, let's not belabor the point. Okay, let's take. Someone give me a verb. Ståstade. Okay. Whoops. Okay, ståstade. So close. Steti status. Okay, and this means to stand. And actually, you saw this verb yesterday when we did our sententiae exercise. Okay, now let's conjugate in the present tense. If it belongs to the present verb system, which principal part am I going to need right now? The second. All right, and the rule goes as follows. You find the second principal part. What goes away? The RE, and you're left with sta. Okay, this is your present stem. Let's mark that up. Okay, but it's not stao in the present tense, right? What is it? It's just sto. They give you that. Okay, so in the present, it's going to be sto, stas, stat. Someone finish it off for me. Olivia? Good. Okay, now we know the imperfect tense as well. Am I still going to use the present stem? Yes. Why? Because the imperfect tense is in the present system. Okay, so we're still using the same stem, and it's just stabam, stabas, stabat. Who could finish that? Lucy, how about you? Yep. Okay, and that's the imperfect. Now, in order to do this in the perfect tense, am I going to still be using the present stem? No! Which principal part do I need now? The third. Okay, so let's deal with that. All right, that's steti, and I'm just going to draw a little arrow over here. Okay, now the rule goes as follows, right? Similarly to the process that we know, you have to find something, and something has to be removed. Okay, so the steti, you're going to remove the I. So your stem is just STET. That's your perfect stem. So if we were to conjugate in the pluperfect, we would use stet. If we were going to conjugate in the future perfect, we would also use stet. We would not use sta. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's go through and do this now. So steti. What's my second person singular? Statisti. Next. Statit. Yep. Next. Next. Yep. Statistis. That's funny. And staterunt. Okay. So you see how they look different because they're using a different stem, but they come from the same verb. All right, and that's why at the beginning of Latin 1, when I first saw you, it was like, guys, know and learn your principal parts, okay, because it's going to become important. You need to know them, okay, and I wasn't kidding. How would you translate? We're about to talk about that. Okay. So let's just pretend, we don't have to go through all of them, but because the perfect is the simple past, how would I say, well, okay, so sto stata in the present, he stands. How would I say it in the imperfect? He was standing. You can also say he used to stand. Okay, and in the perfect, just like the simple past in English, he stood. Okay, now think conceptually about the difference between those two things. Okay, he was standing. He could still be standing. We don't actually know. But if I say he stood, how final does that sound? At least a little more final than the imperfect. Okay, so that's the difference between the perfect and the imperfect, right? She was eating lunch. She could still be eating lunch. We don't know. She ate lunch. Does that sound more final? Lunch is probably done. Okay, so that's the difference between the imperfect and the perfect. Okay, one is continuous action, whereas the other one is completed. Do you have that written? You're like spacing out, staring at me. Okay. Yes. May I scroll? Yeah. Wait, okay. Okay. Now, there's one final thing I want to draw your attention to with the perfect tense. Okay, guys, I know we're tired, but we need to pay attention. Okay, if you fail the final, that's not on me. That's on you. And that is your parents that are going to be upset with not me, but you. And that's me that's going to be upset with you for not listening. Okay. Stop whispering and talking amongst yourselves. Do you know how distracting and annoying that is? Okay. Believe it or not, like we actually have to think things through when we're giving lessons. And hearing the whispering is like a constant distraction. That's not fair. Okay. When we're dealing with the perfect tense, okay, we've got our endings, and I'm going to make you write them again. Okay, he, isti, it, imus, istis, erunt. Okay, so that's like a separate thing. All right, the other part of the word, right, the stem part, the perfect stem. Okay, there's usually going to be a consonant or a vowel that's going to indicate to you that this is definitely perfect. Okay, and I like to call this V sucks. Okay. Let's try one. Okay, dico, to say. Somebody finish that for me. Dico. Yes. Okay, now because we're talking about the perfect tense, we're dealing with this word here, Dixie. Okay, and the ending is just that I, so we're going to pop that off. You see this X right here? Okay, does that fall in line with V sucks? Yeah, it's the X in V sucks. Okay, let's try another one. Gemo, to groan. Anyone? Okay, now once again, we're dealing with the third principal part, gemui. If we pop off that I, which is actually an ending, okay, what precedes that is the letter U. Is that in V sucks? Yes, it is. Yeah, what's up? Okay. Say that again? Markers. Markers. Okay, let's find another one. This one's easy. Amo. Finish it. Okay, so once again, we're going to focus on the third principal part. That I is actually an ending. That V is part of the stem. Does that fall under V sucks? Yeah, yes it does. Okay, what's the only one we haven't dealt with? Okay, this one I don't know if you would know. You might not, so I'll just give it to you. Muso. Oh, what? Sorry. We're gonna have to do two more. Okay. Now in terms of V sucks, what's the letter? V. Okay. Yep. Yeah.
So if it's not in V sucks, like super simple,
But that's irregular. So you can't make any judgments based off of an irregular verb.
what's an example?
One that falls outside of this. When we come across it, I'll have to. I don't remember. I don't remember because it doesn't work for every single verb.
Would that be considered irregular?
No. It would just be like this is just kind of an easy, like the bulk of them have a V, an S, a U, or an X preceding the I, but sometimes that might not happen. So don't be surprised if you do see that, right? But I'd say the most of them do. But that doesn't mean they're irregular, if that makes sense. Yeah, but what I'm saying is like for things that we use to talk about normal verbs, don't try to put irregular verbs in those categories because it'll just be confusing. Like irregular verbs are kind of their own thing. Okay, here's one for you. You bet. Oh, we've seen this before. Do we remember the principal parts? Good. All right, and once again, we're dealing with the third principal part, but what's the word? What's the letter? S. Okay? And that falls under the jurisdiction of V sucks. Okay, so basically what we're saying here is that each form of these words in the perfect tense is going to have a V, an S, a U, or an X for the most part. Not always. Okay? In Latin, you can never say always, which is oxymoronic, I guess. Okay, does anyone have any questions on this? All right, so this is just kind of another way to help you recognize a perfect tense when you see them. All right. And the reason why you need that is because the future tense might get a little confusing if you don't know to look for these letters. Okay, we're not going to talk about the future tense this year, but we will talk about it eventually, probably at the beginning of next. Okay? Any questions on this? No? Okay. Shall we do some examples? Yes, yes, we shall. Okay, Miss Slade, let's go. Don't worry, there won't be that many. All right, in this example, repeat after me. Magistra musat. Go ahead. Okay, now, what is the ending on that verb, musat? What is the ending? Matthew. Eh? Yeah, it's third person present. So what letter is representative of my ending here? Just the letter T. Okay, now preceding that ending, is that V sucks? That A? No. Okay, so we're definitely not in the perfect tense. And is just the letter T a perfect ending anyway? No. Okay, so this is third person present. The teacher mutters. Okay, how is it that you were sitting back and like not writing stuff? And that goes for actually a lot of the people in this room. Like, how are we not writing things down?
I would have them. When I write something down, it's harder for me to understand it because I'm writing. I look up.
So you prefer to like look up and then write it down? Okay. All right, now here, what's the ending on Musawit? It's just IT. Okay, and preceding that IT, is this part of VSUX? Because it's the V. All right, so that definitely clinches the fact that we're working with the perfect tense here. All right, so how am I going to make that simple past completed action? The teacher muttered. Right, she muttered and it was done. That's it. End of action. Okay, which is different from saying the teacher was muttering when the administrator walked in the room, right? At the time of the administrator walking in, she's continuously muttering, which is different from saying the teacher muttered when the administrator walked in the room. Like she muttered and then she shut her mouth when the other person walked in. Does that make sense? Okay, continuous versus completed action. Okay. You feel like you guys got a handle on this? Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna step through.